Time moves differently on the summit of Pobeda. Up here, the air almost rings with cold, and every mistake has a price. In 2025, mountaineer Natalia Nagovitsina was left alone with a broken leg. Rescuers trekked for a week to reach her, but it was too late. Her death echoed another tragedy that struck 4 years earlier. Back in the summer of 2021, on these same slopes, an Iranian climber, Mehri Jafari, disappeared. A London lawyer with a dream to conquer three of Central Asia's 7,000-meter peaks. She climbed too high and never came back, lost forever in the white emptiness. Her story is a mix of ambition, indifference, and unforgiving mountains where neither pride nor hurry will be excused. July 2021. South Inilchek Base Camp, about 4,000 meters above sea level, the very edge of civilization, right at the border of the sky. Mehri steps out of the helicopter and, first thing, pulls out her phone. She snaps a selfie with rows of bright flags and tents behind her. She's grinning, confident. She looks like someone who belongs here. Technical shell jacket, hiking boots scuffed from previous climbs, a bunch of carabiners clipped to her belt. 38 years old, a lawyer from London, but on weekends, an alpinist ticking off more summits every season. In London, Mary is tough in the courtroom, sharp with contracts and corporate disputes. She wears business suits, juggles back-to-back meetings, and her calendar's booked out months ahead. But when she takes vacation, it's never for Mediterranean beaches. It's always somewhere high, where the air burns your lungs and the horizon just dissolves into clouds. For her, this isn't a hobby, it's a second life, a parallel world where the rules change and the adrenaline is real. The Three Peaks of Central Asia project becomes her personal challenge. There's Khan Tengri, 7,010 meters, Pobeda Peak, 7,439 meters, Korzenievskaya, 7,105 meters, three legendary summits in one season. It's a bold goal, even for experienced climbers, and Mary spends a whole year getting ready, training, acclimatization, studying the routes. She wants to prove to herself and to everyone else that she can do it. She's not alone at base camp. There's a Hungarian team, Albert Kovacs and Peter Weitz, both climbers with decades of peaks behind them, fiddling with their gear. A Ukrainian group is poring over weather reports, their voices calm but faces serious. An Iranian group led by Saeed Merzai keeps to themselves, disciplined and focused. Mehri walks over, greets them in Farsi. They are reserved, but invite her to join their route discussion. Everyone is talking about the weather. The forecasts can't agree. Maybe a 3-day window will open. Maybe a cyclone's coming. Some people show satellite images on tablets. Others just shake their heads. There's this tension hanging in the air, hard to name, but impossible to ignore. It's almost like the mountains themselves know something the climbers don't. That night, inside her tent, Mary writes a post on Instagram. She tells her followers about her plans, shares what she's feeling. She uploads a photo of the sunset over the glacier, golden light spilling across the white peaks. Comments start pouring in. Good luck, be careful, waiting for summit photos. She falls asleep to the sound of wind pressing against the thin fabric of her tent, like a warning from the mountain itself. 3 weeks from now, none of them will come back down the same way. It's July 20th. Dawn is cold, gray, and silent. Mary leaves base camp and heads for the first high camp, 4,500 meters up. Not a deadly altitude yet, but already enough to feel how the air hits different. The mountain is completely wrapped in fog. You can barely see 10 meters ahead. Mary moves slowly, every step planned. Step, inhale, step, exhale. The rhythm climbs burn into your brain until it becomes automatic. The wind keeps picking up, turning from a gentle breeze into a pushy gust at her back, like the mountain is impatient for her to turn around. The path here has seen dozens of expeditions, but fresh snow almost wipes it out. She has to watch for the red ribbons tied to rocks. Sometimes she spots them, then loses them again in a sea of white. Her backpack drags her shoulders down, but she won't set it down. Inside, there's food, a small gas canister, a sleeping bag. Everything you need if you're going to spend a night up high. On the climb to camp, she slips. A rock rolls under her foot. She tilts left, and her reflexes kick in. Arm out, don't fall. The edge of a boulder stabs through her glove. The pain is instant and sharp. Mary freezes, grits her teeth, and carefully peels off her glove. Her hand is already swelling. Her wrist aches until her fingers go numb. Maybe it's a crack, maybe just a bad bruise. She wraps it tight with an elastic bandage to keep it stable. That dulls the pain, but doesn't make it go away. At the first high camp, she pitches her tent, lights her stove, and sets water to boil for tea. Her hands shake, maybe from the cold, maybe from exhaustion. She pulls out her phone, records a quick video. Her voice is strong, she still manages a smile. First camp done, my hand is a little sore, but it's all under control. Tomorrow, we head higher. She posted on Instagram with hashtags. Her followers hit like and wish her luck. No one notices how her voice shakes at the end. The night is rough. Acclimatization is unpredictable. Your body has to adjust to thin air, where every breath brings less oxygen than you're used to. For some, that happens fast. For others, it's misery. Mehri wakes up with a headache, dull, crushing, like someone's tightening a vice around her skull. The nausea comes in waves. She drinks water, pops altitude pills, tries to sleep again, but it's useless. By morning, her face is puffy, eyes bloodshot. At dawn, a Ukrainian climber stops by her tent, asks how she's doing, if she needs anything. Mehri smiles, waves with her good hand. I'm all right, just a little tired. I'll catch up to you higher up. He watches for a beat but doesn't push. In the mountains, it's up to you. Move on or turn back. That's the unspoken rule. She knows she's at her limit, but stopping isn't an option. July 22nd. Mehri packs her bag and heads down to the cluster of tents where the Iranian group is set up. Their leader, Saeed Mirzai, is near 50, with a face weathered by sun and wind from decades of expeditions. He looks at her bandaged hand, then at her eyes. He nods. You can come with us, just keep the pace. We don't stop. No one checks how you're feeling or offers advice. That's just how it is. In the mountains, the rules are simple. Either you keep up with the group or you get left behind. The Iranians start early, heading out in those hazy hours before dawn. They move in a silent line, almost mechanical, like clockwork. Saeed leads, 3 men behind him, and Mehri brings up the rear. Their pace is fast, way too fast for her condition. Each step is harder than the last. Her lungs are on fire, her heart's pounding so hard she can feel the pulse in her temples. 5,000 meters up, then 5,500. The air is so thin, it feels pointless to breathe. It's like trying to gulp air through a sheet. She falls behind for the first time as they hit a rocky section. Maybe 20 meters, no more. Mehri tries to push herself, but her legs won't listen. The Iranians don't turn back, they just keep moving, their shapes fading into the mist, and for a moment, Mehri is alone in a world of white. Panic bubbles up in her chest, but she grits her teeth and catches up. No one asks if she's okay. At 6,000 meters, the group stops for a quick break, 5 minutes tops. Saeed pulls out a thermos, pours tea into the lid, and passes it around. When Mehri's turn comes, she drinks greedily, burning her mouth a little. Her hand hurts so much her fingers barely bend. She tries to hide it, but one of the guys notices her wince and says something to Saeed in Farsi. Saeed looks her over and shakes his head. If you can't keep going, head down now. Higher up, it's just going to get worse. But Mehri doesn't quit. She stands up, packs her things, and takes a step forward. Saeed just shrugs. The group keeps moving. At 6,200 meters, the trail turns almost vertical. Old ropes, leftovers from past expeditions, stick out from the snow here and there. You have to climb, pull yourself up, grab onto anything you can. Mehri's injured arm won't hold her weight. She's forced to use only her good hand, which slows her down even more. The gap between her and the group widens, 30 meters, then 50, and soon she can't see them at all. At 6,500 meters, Mehri stops. She just stands there on the slope, breathing, staring up. Somewhere in the clouds above, the Iranians are still climbing. The summit's nearly 1,000 meters away. Her head is splitting, her vision blurs, and nausea comes in waves. She knows this is it. Any further, and she might never make it back down. Mehri turns around and begins her descent, slow and careful, clinging to every ledge she can reach with her good hand. Here, the trail vanishes into the white. There's nothing ahead but the way down. August 4th, 4 in the afternoon. 2 weeks since her first attempt. Mehri is back on the mountain, higher than before. 6,300 meters, a zone where the air holds only half as much oxygen as at sea level. The wind roars so loudly it drowns out her own thoughts. She moves alone, 1 foot at a time, as carefully as possible. The slope is steep, about 45 degrees, coated in old ice under a layer of fresh snow. It's a tricky mix, soft on top, slick underneath. Something crunches beneath her boot. Mary freezes for a split second, tries to shift her weight back, but she's already too late. The snow shelf cracks loose and drops out from under her, pulling her down with it. She falls. Instinct kicks in. She flings her ice axe, tries to drive it into the slope, anything to grab hold of, to stop. Metal scrapes against ice, but there's nothing to grip. Her body tumbles, the world flipping, white, gray, then white again. She's falling fast now, picking up speed, the avalanche gaining momentum behind her. About 200 meters above, Hungarian climbers Albert Kovac and Peter Weitz are taking a break. Suddenly, they hear a sound, quiet at first, then louder, like a train rumbling in from a distance. They turn and see a body careening down the slope, vanishing in a cloud of snow. In an instant, it disappears into a gap, a crevasse on the wild glacier, just one of the hundreds that split open this frozen river. The snow settles. Silence. Just the wind. Albert grabs the radio, mashes the transmit button. His voice cracks into a shout. "Someone's fallen, around 6,300 meters, wild glacier. We need immediate help." They stare down, searching for movement in that empty white, but the crevasse is deep, its walls sheer. Nothing comes up from below. Peter switches the radio over to the Iranian team's frequency. Said Mirzaei is somewhere higher up, closer to the summit. He's their best chance, the nearest group to the accident. Said, "Do you copy? We've got an emergency. A climber fell into a crevasse." Static. Silence. Then a short reply. "Understood." Continuing the ascent. Albert turns to Peter, not believing what he's just heard. "What do you mean continuing? There could be someone alive down there." But the Iranian team doesn't reply. The radio goes dead. The Hungarians try to reach base camp, but all they get is the expedition coordinator from AXA Travel. He jots down the location, promises to send the helicopter, but a chopper can't make it up here right now. The clouds are too thick, visibility's 0, and the wind is gusting up to 50 kilometers an hour. Pilots refuse to risk it. Albert and Peter just stand there on the slope, staring down into the crevasse where Mary Jafari disappeared moments ago. They know every minute counts, but going down there on their own, without ropes or gear, would be suicide. They need support, ropes, a rescue team. All of it sitting back at base camp, a 4-hour descent. Their distress call is lost in the wind. Albert dials base camp on the satellite phone, hands shaking, maybe from the cold, maybe adrenaline. On the other end is Maxim Popovsky, the coordinator from AXA Travel, the company that set up the expedition. Albert shouts out the coordinates, explains the situation, demands a rescue chopper right away. Maxim takes it all down, promises to act. But there's hesitation in his voice. The helipad in Karakol, the closest town to the mountains, is socked in by thick cloud cover. The ceilings drop to just 2,000 meters, which means the pilot can't even see the slopes, can't hope to reach the scene, let alone hover there. The weather report says things might get better by evening, but that's still 4 more hours of waiting. And up at just over 6,000 meters, stuck in an icy crevasse, every minute is critical. In Kyrgyzstan, Temirbek Usubaliev, the search and rescue leader, gets the call at 20 minutes to 5. That's 40 minutes since the fall. He gathers his team, 3 seasoned mountaineers, a medic, all the gear they can carry. But the helicopter isn't going anywhere. The pilot doesn't budge. With visibility like this, it's suicide. We won't even see the cliffs until we hit them. Temirbek studies the map, running through every option. Hiking up there on foot would take at least 8 hours, probably more. They'd get there after dark. Back at base camp, tension is building. Climbers from other teams, Ukrainian, Kazakh, Russian, start gathering outside the coordinator's tent. Everyone's heard the radio call. Some people say, "Let's put together a volunteer group and just go right now." Others argue, "No point going without the pros. That crevasse is deep. We need ropes at least 100 meters long, the right gear, people who know how to handle steep ice walls." That's when Ukrainian climber Andriy Velichko steps up and takes the lead. He pulls together a group of 5, checks their gear, loads up their packs. "We're going." While the official rescue team waits for the weather, someone up there could just be freezing, running out of time. They head out at 5:30, with the sun already dipping behind the peaks. They know they're in for a long night on the mountain, but just waiting around at camp is out of the question. Higher up, the Iranian team keeps climbing. Said Mirzai gets a direct order over the radio. Drop everything, go back down to the accident site right now, help them. Said replies, short and flat. We're at 7,000 meters. Heading down will take hours. We're pushing for the summit. Maxim, the coordinator, raises his voice. This isn't a request, it's an order. But the radio goes dead. The Iranians keep going up. For them, an expedition isn't just an adventure, it's a mission, something you complete no matter what. The summit comes first. That's their code, their way of doing things. Some people would call it cold, others professional. Either way, the fact is, they aren't coming back down. Silence settles over the radio. Albert and Peter are still up at the crevasse, staring into the darkness below. They shout down, hoping for an answer, but all they get back is the echo of their own voices. Up here, the rules are different. Orders from ground level just don't hold any power. It's August 5th, 6 in the morning. Albert Kovacs and Peter Weitz never went back to base camp. They spent the night in a tent at 6,000 meters so they could get back to the crevasse as soon as the sun came up. They barely slept, just a few half-hour stretches between gusts of wind that rattled the tent like it was about to be ripped off the mountain. In the morning, they drink hot tea, check their gear, strap on their crampons. No one says a word. They both know the odds of finding anyone alive after a night in a crevasse are almost zero. But they have to try. Step by careful step, using their poles to test the snow, they start moving. It's a trap here. The snow is all uneven, covering hidden holes, cracks, air pockets. Take one wrong step and you'll fall right through. Avalanche risk is sky high, especially after that heavy snowfall yesterday. Out here, even a shout could set things off. A rock tumbling, a sudden breath. It all matters. Albert goes first, picking the way forward, testing each step. Peter follows in his tracks, keeping about 10 meters back. That's safer. If one of them goes through, the other might still be up top to help. By 8 in the morning, they reach the drop. The crevasse cuts through the slope like a grim grin, a narrow slit, barely a meter wide, but vanishing down, who knows how far. The edges are glazed with ice, sharp enough to slice. Albert lies flat on his stomach, eases over the rim, shining his headlamp into the depths. The beam bounces off blue ice walls, then disappears, no bottom in sight. He calls out, "Mary, can you hear me? Say something." His voice bounces back over and over, warped, ghostly. Nothing else? No answer? Peter circles around, giving the crack a wide berth, searching for more signs. About 20 meters away, he spots a sleeping bag, blue and red, half buried by snow. Scattered close by, a few things. An empty water bottle, a torn piece of rope, a busted trekking pole, signs of a struggle. She tried to hold on, to stop herself, but it wasn't enough. Then there's the dark patch in the snow, smudged and spreading. You don't have to be an expert to get what that means. Albert pulls out their rope, 80 meters, all they've got. He anchors one end to his harness, the other to a big boulder, driving his ice axe into the snow for backup. Peter grips the rope, steady, ready to belay. Albert begins to lower himself into the crevasse. The walls close in overhead, the light fades, and suddenly it's just bitter cold and gloom. It's colder inside than on the surface, -30, maybe even worse. Every breath turns into clouds of vapor, frosting up his beard and lashes. 10 meters down, 20, 30. Albert shines his light, peering for any sign of her. It's just rock and endless ice, nothing else. At 40 meters, the rope runs out. He's dangling in the dark, heart beating up in his throat, staring down into an abyss his lamp can't reach. If Mary's down there, there's no way to get to her without pro gear. Albert climbs back up, crawls out onto the snow, flat on his back, shutting his eyes against the sky. It almost feels like she could still be close by, just quieter than anyone. August 5th, London. The news takes 12 hours to reach Mary's family. Her sister, Shirin, is the first to see a post in a private climbers group. Iranian woman fell into crevasse at Victory Peak. Search delayed due to weather. Her heart just drops. Shirin tries Mary's satellite phone. No luck. She sends messages. None go through. Worry hardens into something cold and certain. She turns to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, posts a photo of Mary on last year's summit, writes in English and Farsi, "My sister has gone missing on Peak Pobeda in Kyrgyzstan. She urgently needs help. If anyone has info or can help organize a rescue, please contact me." The word spreads instantly. Shares, comments, and hundreds of messages of support start pouring in. Climbers from all over the world are reaching out, some offering contacts with Kyrgyz rescue teams, others sharing their experience in similar rescues. Mary's friends at a London law firm start pulling every string they can. They call the Kyrgyz embassy, the British Foreign Office, and even the Red Cross. It's always the same answer. The situation is complicated. We're doing everything we can, but still, no details, no clear plan. Over in London, the Iranian community sets up a video call with Iran's Ministry of Sports. "We've reached out to the Kyrgyz authorities. Now we're waiting for more info." Sharon shouts into the camera, "Waiting! Every minute counts. Send a helicopter. Get a proper rescue team out there." The official just nods, promises to speed things up. The call drops. Meanwhile, at base camp, the coordinator, Maxim Popovsky, is answering call after call. Journalists, family members, volunteers, all asking the same thing. When will rescuers get there? Maxim has to be honest. The official rescue team can't go up. It's the weather. The helicopter is still grounded. Volunteers tried going down into the crevasse, but the ropes were too short. "It's deeper than 80 meters. We need special gear." AXA Travel puts out an official statement. "We deeply regret to inform you that our client, Mary Jafari, is missing on Peak Pobeda. The rescue operation is complicated by extreme weather and how remote the area is. We are doing everything possible to coordinate efforts." But the statement is cold, bureaucratic, and offers little hope. Back in London, Mary's friends gather around their screens, refreshing news updates, reading every last message out of Kyrgyzstan. Some cry, others just stare, lost in thought. On the slopes of the mountain, the Hungarian climbers make their way down empty-handed. While some are praying in London, others stay silent at the base of the peak. August 6th, base camp. Albert Kovac storms into the coordinator's tent, his face red, part anger, part altitude. He slams his radio down on the table. "Get this on the record. The Iranian team refused to help. They were only 200 meters from where she fell and just walked right past. Mary might still be alive if they'd gone down right away." Maxim tries to calm him down, but Albert's not listening. He pulls out a recorder and plays back a radio transmission from August 4th. Said Merdzai's voice comes through, calm, almost detached. "We're continuing our climb. Going down doesn't make sense." Peter Vites posts in a Hungarian climbing group. He doesn't sugarcoat it. The Iranian team ignored a distress signal and headed for the summit while a woman was dying in a crevasse. That's not mountaineering. That's betrayal. Within the first hour, hundreds of comments pour in. The climbing community is split. Some side with the Hungarians. Above all, human life comes first. Ambitions are second. Others defend the Iranians. A descent from 7,000 meters could have cost the whole team their lives. They made the only choice they could. Saeed Mirzaei gets back to us 2 days later, when his team finally makes it down to base camp after their summit. He's giving an interview to an Iranian climbing magazine. His voice is strong, no second guessing at all. "We were at 7,000 meters when the call came in. Getting down would have taken us at least 6 hours. By then, any help would have been pointless. We did what we came here to do. We reached the summit. That's why we're here." The journalist presses him, "Don't you feel responsible?" Saeed stares straight into the camera. "Every mountaineer's responsible for themselves. We're not rescue workers." Now, you can feel the tension in base camp. The Ukrainian team isn't hiding where they stand. They're all in with the Hungarians. Andriy Velishko finds Saeed by the tents, voice raised so everyone can hear. "You left her. You could have turned around, but instead you went for the summit. How can you even call yourselves mountaineers?" Saeed doesn't answer. He just turns and walks away. His teammates start packing their gear in total silence, feeling eyes on their backs from every other expedition. The Iranians refuse to get involved in the search from here on out. Saeed tells the coordinator, "Our expedition's over. We're heading down to the valley." Maxim tries to get them to stay. "At least talk to us, help us piece together what happened." But they're already packing up. An hour later, they're gone. Nobody sees them again. Albert stands at the edge of camp and watches them disappear. His fists are clenched so hard, his knuckles go white. Peter puts a hand on his shoulder. Nothing needs to be said. When everyone's convinced they're right, it's the mountain that chooses who stays behind. It's August 7th, 11:30 in the morning. The altitude is 6,800 meters on the north face of Victory Peak. Iranian climber Ali Rezadina is making his way down after a failed summit push. Suddenly, the weather goes bad in seconds. Visibility drops to just a few meters, winds crank up to a full-on storm. Ali is moving slow, planting each trekking pole carefully, feeling for solid ground under the snow. But there's a hidden layer of ice below, slick as glass. His foot slips. Rezadina tries to arrest himself with his poles, jamming them hard, but the metal tips skate over the ice. They can't bite. His body tilts back, he loses his balance. He's falling, sliding faster down the slope, trying to roll onto his stomach and dig in with his ice axe, but his backpack catches, pulling him off balance. 100 meters, 200, 300. He vanishes into a cloud of snow. The Ukrainians are about 400 meters below. They hear the scream cut off mid-sentence. Look up. Through the fog, they see his body bouncing between the rocks as it hurtles down. Andriy Velichko grabs the radio and yells into it. Somebody's fallen, north slope, about 6,800. Can anybody help? Nothing but static. They climb up to the point where he went down, moving fast despite the thin air burning in their lungs. They find the marks, a deep gash in the snow, scraps of fabric caught on rocks, a single trekking pole jammed into the snow at an angle. Beyond that, the path stops at the edge of another crevasse. Andriy steps to the brink, shining his headlamp into the black. Nothing but darkness. All you can hear is the echo of loose stones, tumbling down after some careless step. Then, crackling over the radio, another Iranian group calls in, the folks who stayed behind on the slope after Saeed's team left. The voice on the line sounds tense. It's Rezadin. He's one of ours. We're coming up to meet you. Andrei fires back. We need ropes, at least 150 meters, a medical kit, and safety gear. The Iranians promise to bring everything they can. But when they finally arrive and peer down into the crevasse, they just shake their heads. One of them says quietly, barely above a whisper, "It's too deep. We can't go down there." Andriy can't believe what he's hearing. "You have the gear. We can at least try." The Iranians just exchange glances and go silent. After a moment, one of them answers quietly, "We already lost one person on this mountain. We don't want to lose another." They turn away and start heading back down. The Ukrainians stay put by the crevasse for another 2 hours. They shout below, shine their headlamps into the darkness, trying to hear something, anything, but there's just silence. Only the wind, howling between the shards of ice, almost like distant crying. That day the mountain took its second, August 8th dawn. At base camp, a mixed team is coming together. 3 Ukrainians and 2 Israelis from a neighboring expedition. They don't know Rezadin personally, but there's an unwritten rule in the mountains. If there's even the slightest chance, you have to try. Shimon Levi, an Israeli climber with 20 years of experience under his belt, checks the gear one last time. 200 meters of rope, 8 carabiners, a first aid kit, a sat phone. He knows this mission might be pointless, but not trying would mean giving up. They set out at 6 in the morning before sunrise, when the sky is still gray and the first hints of sunlight just brush the upper slopes. The climb takes 5 hours. Every step gets harder as the altitude takes its toll. At 6,500 meters, every breath feels shallow, never enough. Andriy Velichko, who had already climbed up here the previous day, leads the way. His face is drawn, his eyes red from a sleepless night. He barely says a word now, just points out the route with tired gestures. By noon, the weather turns. The wind picks up suddenly, as if someone flung open a secret door up in the sky. Gusts hit 70 kilometers an hour, strong enough to knock you to your knees and make you cling to the rocks for dear life. Snow sweeps sideways, stinging your face like a spray of needles. Visibility drops to 5 meters at best. Shimon shouts into the radio, "We have to stop! It's too dangerous to go on." But Andrei just shakes his head, waving them forward, only 200 more meters to the crevasse. They reach the spot at 2 in the afternoon. The crevasse looks even more intimidating than it did yesterday. The edge is glazed with ice, snowdrifts piled so high you can't tell where solid ground ends and the void begins. Shimon ties in the rope and starts the descent. 20 meters, 30, 50. His headlamp sweeps across walls of blue ice, jagged black rock, beads of water freezing in real time right before his eyes. At 70 meters, he stops. Down below, the crack narrows so tightly you couldn't squeeze through sideways. Shimon climbs back up. The wind tugs at the rope so hard it hums like a guitar string. He hauls himself out, pulls his hood tight, and looks at the team. No words are needed. Everyone just gets it. One of the Israelis pulls out a thermos, pours some hot tea, and passes the cup around. They drink in silence, warming their hands on the metal mug. The descent starts at 3 in the afternoon. They move slowly, carefully, every step measured. The wind pushes at their backs, urging them on, but rushing here is a disaster waiting to happen. At 6,000 meters, one of the Ukrainians slips, falls, and slides about 15 feet before he can dig in with his ice axe. Everyone's heart is racing. One more fall, and the rescue team could become the next group needing to be rescued. Sometimes, even rescuers go missing. It's August 8th, 2 in the afternoon. While the Israeli-Ukrainian team makes their way down empty-handed, somewhere on the eastern slope, the Russian group called Sturm gets trapped. 4 climbers, Valentin Mikhailov, Dmitry Sokolov, Igor Bailov, and Anton Karpov, are stuck up at 7,100 meters, a place mountaineers call the death zone. Up here, there's barely any oxygen. Your body just starts shutting down, cell by cell, bit by bit. An hour at this altitude can shave days off your life. Then the weather breaks for good. A storm slams the slope so hard that it rips their tent from its anchors in seconds. Valentin manages to grab his sleeping bag, but everything else just vanishes over the edge. They huddle against the rock, cover themselves with whatever's left, and hope to hold out. The temperature drops to -40. The wind howls so loud you can't even hear your friend shouting from a meter away. Dmitry is the first to lose consciousness. Altitude sickness, brain swelling, hits fast at the summit. Valentin tries to wake him, shaking his shoulders, yelling in his face. Nothing. Igor grabs the radio, screams into the static, "Sturm Group, we're in trouble. Altitude 7,100. One man unconscious. We need evac." The coordinator at base camp picks up, but the answer is the same as always. The helicopter can't make it. Hold on. Get yourselves down if you can. Valentin Mikhailov makes a choice. He's 42, a climbing instructor from Yekaterinburg, and he's summited dozens of peaks. He knows if they stay, everyone dies. He ties Dmitry to himself with a rope and starts down. Igor and Anton follow. Every step is a battle. Dmitry is dead weight, limp on the rope, pulling Valentin down. Valentin falls a few times, gets back up, keeps moving, and then, at 6,800 meters, the rope snaps. It's old, worn thin by rocks. It just can't hold. Dmitry falls away, drops out of sight into the fog. Valentin jumps after him, trying to catch up, to grab him. Igor yells, "Stop! You can't help him!" But Valentin doesn't hear. Or maybe he just doesn't want to. He keeps going, faster now, forgetting to be careful. Then he slips, falls. Igor and Anton stop, looking down. Nothing but white emptiness and wind. They shout their friends' names, but there's no echo. They go on, just the two of them. They make it to base camp by nightfall, frozen, exhausted, barely alive. People meet them at the tents, wrap them in blankets, pour hot tea down their throats. Through the shivering, Igor manages to say, "Valentin." He tried to save Dmitry. He just couldn't stop. But the bodies are never found. The mountain doesn't care about flags or names. It just is. August 12th, Bishkek. The Ministry of Emergency Situations in Kyrgyzstan calls for an emergency meeting. At the table you've got government officials, rescue team leaders, and reps from mountaineering federations. Up on the projector screen, there's a list of names: Mehri Jafari, Ali Rezadin, Valentin Mikhailov, Dmitry Sokolov. 4 names, 1 week. The minister looks down at his papers, then lifts his head. This is a disaster. Victory Peak is turning into a place of constant tragedy. What are we doing wrong? Timirbek Usubaliev, head of one of the rescue teams, stands up. His voice is tired, but you can tell it's steely. "We have 3 helicopters for the whole country. 2 of them are old and can't even fly above 5,000 meters. We buy modern climbing gear from our own pockets. We don't have any medical equipment for high-altitude rescues. We're doing everything we can, but it's not enough." He pulls out some photos: frostbitten hands, snapped ropes, busted carabiners. just the harsh reality, nothing sugar-coated. Then someone from the AXA travel agency jumps in. The problem isn't with our gear, the problem is the people. These climbers show up unprepared, overestimate their abilities, ignore all the warnings. We can't be responsible for every choice they make. Temmerbeck gives him a cold look. You're making money organizing these expeditions. That means you're responsible. People start to argue. Someone demands tougher entry rules. Another suggests mandatory insurance for all climbers. And then, one of the invited mountaineers speaks up. We need a proper permit system, like on Everest in Nepal. Only climbers who can prove their experience, present a medical certificate, and have evacuation insurance get the green light. No more self-guided amateur groups. Not everyone's on board with the idea. The officials are scared of losing tourists. After all, mountaineering brings millions of dollars into the country every year. But the numbers paint a grim picture. In the past 5 years, 23 people have died on Victory Peak. That's more than some of the major Himalayan 8,000ers. The stats don't lie. By the end of the meeting, there's a decision. Put together a working group to design new rules. Everyone has to register their expedition, gear will be checked, climbers must have a minimum level of experience, and every group needs a professional guide. It takes 3 months to draft the new law, and they finally pass it in November 2021. Now, anyone who wants to climb Victory Peak has to pay for a permit, hand over a medical certificate, and prove at least 3 previous ascents higher than 6,000 meters. Every summit now comes with paperwork and a price. September 2021. Climbing season is closing down. The South Inalchek base camp empties out. Tents get packed up. Gear gets boxed, and helicopters take the last groups down to the valley. Hungarian climber Peter Vides sits by the campfire on his last night before heading home. The fire crackles, sparks floating up into the dark sky. He looks out at the hills fading into the twilight and drifts back into memories. Mary was different, he tells the reporter from a Hungarian mountaineering magazine. She never tried to act tougher than she was, always smiling, even when things got rough. I remember our first night at camp. She showed up at our tent with Iranian tea, something special with herbs mixed in. We all just sat there, chatting about climbing routes, and her laughter was so contagious that pretty soon everyone was laughing with her. She had this light in her eyes, like someone who's found exactly where they belong. Andriy Velishko, a Ukrainian climber, remembers something else. He's sitting in his apartment in Kyiv, rain drumming against the window, a mug of cold coffee on the table. She used to show me photos from her previous climbs. Elbrus, Mont Blanc, some peaks in Iran, I can't remember the names. Every single photo she's at the summit, holding a flag, grinning from ear to ear. And you know what struck me? She was always alone. No team, no guides, no partners. Just her and the mountain. I remember asking her, "Why take such big risks?" She said, "Because no one believed I could." Shimon Levi, an Israeli climber, does his interview over video call. Behind him, a wall of mountain photos. He says, there are really 2 kinds of people in climbing. Some go to the mountain because they love the process, the journey, the nature, the sense of freedom. And others, they climb to prove something. Maybe to themselves, maybe to everyone else. Mary was one of the second kind. That's not good or bad, it's just the way it is. She wasn't fighting the mountain, she was fighting her own doubts. And you know what's the saddest thing? She almost won. Maxim Popovsky, the coordinator for AXA Travel, is closing up the season's base camp office. He's packing up papers, locking up gear crates. She wanted to summit 3 peaks in 1 season. That's ambitious even for guys who do this for a living. I told her, start with 1, do your acclimatization right, don't rush it. But she insisted, she said, no, I can do it. She just wanted to prove herself, and that's what cost her everything. Peter tosses the last branch into the campfire, watching it flare up and crumble to ash. Sometimes the summit isn't the mountain, it's your own pride. It's October 2021. South Inalchek base camp is empty. Tents long packed away, the flags taken down, old fire pits buried under snow. Only the stones are left, silent witnesses to everything that happened here. The wind sweeps across the plateau, kicking up snow dust that spirals around before settling again. No one's here, just whiteness and silence. People see mountains in all kinds of ways. Some see a challenge, others see beauty. For some, the mountains are a test of character. Climbers like to say, mountains aren't fair, they're not harsh either. They're just indifferent. A mountain isn't good or evil, it just is. It was standing here millions of years before any human looked up at it in awe. It'll be here for millions more, long after the last climber has left its slopes. Mary Jafari knew that. Anybody who's ever been above 20,000 feet knows it. But knowing something isn't the same as accepting it. When you're standing at the bottom, looking up at the summit, it's easy to think you're stronger. You start to believe your training, your experience, your willpower, those should be enough. That if you just want it badly enough, the mountain will let you through. But mountains never really yield. They let you climb or they don't. It's not your choice to make. Up on the slopes of Peak Pobedy, the wind never stops. It howls through every crack, whistles across jagged ridges, sweeps snow from one side to the other. Anyone who's ever been here knows that sound. Mehri heard it in her last moments. Rezadin heard it. Valentin Mikhailov heard it too. Thousands before and thousands after have listened to the same wind. The mountain doesn't answer your questions. It never explains why some people make it back and others stay forever. Sometimes that silence is louder than any answer you might get. May 2022. Almost a year has passed. A new season opens on Peak Pobedy, and the first expeditions are tracing the old routes again. The base camp comes alive. Tents go up. People's voices mix with hope and excitement. Some newcomers have no idea what happened here last summer. Others have heard the stories, but don't really pay attention. The mountains are full of tragedies. Every summit remembers the names of those who never came down. Inside the coordinator's tent, there's an old radio, the same one they used to send distress calls a year ago. Maxim Popovsky picks it up, checks the battery, turns it on. The static fills the air, white noise, random and endless. Radio waves bounce between the cliffs, reflect off glaciers, vanish into the emptiness. Out of nowhere, the static breaks. A voice cuts in, quiet, distorted by the interference, barely there at all. Base, this is a group. We found something in the snow. Maxim grabs the radio, presses it to his ear, hits transmit. Repeat, who is this? What are your coordinates? But there's only static in reply. The voice is gone, like it was never there. He flips through frequencies, hoping to catch the signal again. Nothing. Maybe it was another team reporting some lost gear. Or maybe it was just interference, a trick played by the atmosphere, by the distance. At high altitude, radio signals get weird. Sometimes you pick up transmissions from hundreds of kilometers away, and sometimes you can't hear someone who's just 100 meters from you. Maxim puts the radio back on the table and looks out the tent window. The slopes are lost in the early morning mist. Somewhere up there, above the clouds, inside the cracks and snowy fields, the answers are hidden. Answers to questions nobody ever asks out loud. What did the climbers find last summer? What's left of Mary Jafari, Ali Rezadin, Valentin Mikhailov? Did their bodies reach the bottom of those glacier crevasses? Or are they stuck somewhere midway, forever frozen? Some families are still waiting for closure. They want to bring their loved ones home, bury them with rituals, put up a marker. But mountains don't give up their captives easily. Glaciers move slow, maybe a few centimeters a year. Decades from now, melting ice might finally bring someone to the surface. Or maybe it'll never happen. Stories about the mountains never really end. They just fade into the heights. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.